And then we'll figure that all out later. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hari Haray Nama Krishna Jadhavaya Nama Hari Haray Nama Krishna Jadhavaya Nama Hari Hari Haray Nama Krishna Jadhavaya Nama Hari Jadhavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha Gopa Govindaram Shimarusudan Gopa Govindaram Shimarusudan Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Sita Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnav Bhagavad Gita Hari Guru Vaishnav Bhagavad Gita Sri Rup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Sri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath Hori Horai Nama Krishna Jadhavai Nama Hari Horai Nama Krishna Jadhavai Nama Hari Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. There's another song, Anilo Prema Dhana, and Advaita Acharya is mentioned there. Che Anilo Prema Dhana Kuruna Pacho. It's a song of separation from the devotees who have departed. But today, we won't sing that, but because today is the appearance day, as far as I remember. And that song is sung on disappearance days. So we have been discussing Advaita a little bit. There are some things that I haven't yet studied, which I could bring up at this point, but I think I could summarize a little bit for you, for all of those you, some of the highlights who didn't hear the last two classes or did hear them, but maybe didn't pay attention to everything or didn't remember everything. So that does happen. It is Kali Yuga. memories are less and getting worse every day. The only thing good about the Kali Yuga is we have the holy name. Are there other good things? That's the main thing. So I think we mentioned on Wednesday, it came up, Lord Chaitanya is called the Chana avatar. Chana is a name of dal, garbanzo beans. He's not the garbanzo bean avatar. Chana also means covered, probably pronounced slightly differently. But anyway, in Shastra, he's called covered. You could say comes incognito because he's coming as a devotee. He is Krishna and Radha combined, we know that. But he didn't manifest that, didn't want to manifest that. He wanted to teach. He wanted to teach as a devotee. And Advaita Acarya did the same thing. Advaita Acarya is Lord Shiva, Sadashiva, the original form of the eternal form of Shiva. The Shiva we see in this world is a manifestation from another form called Sadashiva. That's the original form of Shiva. And Shiva went to Mahavishnu and said, I feel sad that the world is suffering. And Mahavishnu said, let's go. I'll go with you. And then that will be Advaita, and Advaita is now a combination of Shiva and Vishnu. And sometimes you'll read that. How can you be both? Because it was Lord Shiva and Mahavishnu combined together. And Lord Shiva is compassionate. You know about Lord Shiva something that he favors people who are especially fallen. And Advaita manifested the same compassion because he saw that people were suffering and he wanted to help them. That's Lord Shiva's mood. And so Lord Shiva, when he went to Mahavishnu, his mood was people are suffering, Kali Yuga is coming. What are we going to do? So, and Advaita, when he was here, it's Kali Yuga, things are really bad. Mahaprabhu has to come. I can't do this myself. So, both things were going on simultaneously. But Advaita always exhibited himself as a devotee, not as Mahavishnu. I mean, on occasion, he might exhibit some special qualification, but that would let people know he's more than just a devotee. But this is called Bhakta Avatar. When an empowered person comes as a devotee, he's an avatar by playing the role of a devotee, or he is not an avatar, but he's an empowered devotee, so it's called Bhakta Avatar. He's not Vishnu Tattva. That may be also, sometimes the devotee comes, Srivas Thakur. The Panchatattva, Advaita, Gadadhar was Radharani, or the halo of Radharani, or some spark of Radharani. An aspect of Radharani. Srivas, Narada Muni, empowered, playing the roles of devotees. So Mahaprabhu played the role of a devotee for other reasons as well, as we will discuss on Gaur Purnima. But Advaita is playing the role of devotee because he's Acharya, so he can teach by example. So one of the significant things I find in this story and in the story of Lord Shiva, the story of Advaita calling Krishna and the story of Mahaprabhu and the story of Advaita, is that when they saw people suffering, it really bothered them. And sometimes we say, are you compassionate? And you'll say, yes. We'll say, are you compassionate enough that if this happened, you would do something? And you think, maybe not that compassionate. We could take it to the extreme. Are you compassionate enough that you'd be willing to suffer in hell forever so everyone else could go back to Godhead? No, let me think about it. So I'm not saying that we're not compassionate, but there's different degrees of how you would manifest it and what you would be willing to undergo. And so one of the qualities we see in the pure devotee is that the suffering of conditioned souls, it becomes like their suffering, or like the suffering of their own family. Like when your family suffers, you suffer. If you have children, you suffer when they suffer. If your parents suffer, you suffer. Souffrir. How do you say suffer? Souffrir? No, that's French.
Sufrir.
Souffrir.
Yes.
Souffrir?
Sufrir. F-R. Sufrir.
Souffrir.
Yes.
Souffrir.
Yes.
Sounds like you're being free. So freer.
Yeah, actually free, like F-R, free. Sufrir. Yeah.
Souffrir. So what we see in the Bhagavatam, what we sing in the story, and also in the Gita, where Krishna says that the sadhu, the sage, he understands people's suffering through his own experience because he suffered and he knows what it's like. So it's an emotional experience that it's very difficult for them to tolerate the suffering of other people. And in this case, Advaita Acarya could not tolerate it, but he didn't think that he was capable of delivering them, and he thought only Mahaprabhu could deliver them. So that was his strategy, bring Mahaprabhu down. If Mahaprabhu comes, then they'll be delivered. So we saw this also with Srila Prabhupada. We see this with all the great acharyas. And Prabhupada tells us how they think. He said they're always thinking how to save the fallen souls. So we hear that as a concept, but behind the concept is the fact that the suffering of the conditioned souls, it affects them emotionally. It's painful for them. And I saw that many times in Srila Prabhupada, different stories in different situations, when some strategy or conclusion was being made, we could understand Prabhupada was making this conclusion or strategy based on maybe not exactly what is politically correct from a Krishna conscious perspective, but because he didn't want to see people suffer. So he would sometimes allow things to happen, allow people to stay in temples, allow people to do certain service, give time and so forth, because he didn't want to see them suffer, the suffering that was painful for him. And in the Bhagavatam, Prabhupada made a point that the distinguishing quality between a Vaishnava and other spiritualists is compassion. And therefore they go out. So they're not just interested in their own elevation. We have to be interested in our own elevation, purification. But we're more interested or equally interested in other people's elevation. But certain spiritualists are not. They do everything for themselves. So Prabhupada talks about that in the Bhagavatam, distinguishes a devotee from someone who's just, who's a transcendentalist. You could call a sadhu, you could call a sage, but they're focused on their own liberation. And then Prabhupada said, this is the greatest, not only the distinguishing quality, it's the greatest quality of any human being. It's the greatest quality of a devotee. And then I think I was telling you, I don't know if I was telling you, but there was once some discussion, maybe I was telling in the class, the Russian class, there was a discussion about some of Advaita's sons who didn't follow. And so some of Bhaktisiddhanta's disciples left him and went to other Goswamis or Babajis. And Prabhupada was pointing out those Babajis were not preaching, they were not spreading Krishna consciousness. So they might have been transcendentalists, knowledgeable, renounced, and so forth in other ways. But he was looking at that quality as as kind of like there's a gaping hole here. Like if you're a Vaishnava, you shouldn't have this hole. There's a gaping hole where there's a lack of compassion. So when Prabhupada heard that some of his disciples were going to these people, he didn't, to my knowledge, he didn't criticize their sadhana, their chanting, or any of that. What he noted was they hadn't done anything for pushing on Mahaprabhu's movement. So it was kind of like that, in a sense, nullified all the other, for all their good qualities and good sadhana and knowledge. What have they done to spread Mahaprabhu's movement? And Prabhupada said they haven't done anything. So it's kind of in the context of why would you follow somebody like that who missed the main thing? Not only is compassion the main thing, but they missed the whole movement of Mahaprabhu, of what he did. So in Chaitanya Charitamrita, you can read the story of Advaita, and he was calling out, crying for Mahaprabhu to come. He's crying. So what's that crying? He's crying on behalf of the conditioned souls to see them suffer. There's a poem Prabhupada wrote, Viraha Ashtakam, and it was very similar. You can read this poem. It's quite interesting. It's a poem of separation. And, a lot of times we say, well, there is no separation. You feel closer to your guru following his instruction. But this is actually a whole song of separation. Of course, Prabhupada said, I never felt separated from my guru. But what Prabhupada was feeling separation from or pained by was the condition of the Gaudiya Math. Not in and of itself was that the real pain. The real pain was that there will be millions of people that won't get Krishna consciousness because of the internal problems of the Gaudiya Math. So that was the real pain. So his feeling of separation from Srila Bhakti Siddhanta was manifested in the pain he was feeling, that the conditioned souls weren't going to get Krishna consciousness. So again, it shows the pain that Prabhupada felt. There's a story I told before where some women with children were living in the temple, and they were asking Prabhupada if we could ask them to leave because they don't do much service and it costs money to maintain them. And Prabhupada didn't say yes. He didn't say anything, and they understood that he didn't like that idea that they leave. And so they said, Prabhupada, so you don't like this idea? It was a resolution. So Prabhupada, we should then cancel this resolution. And Prabhupada said, well, I just want to give everyone a chance to be Krishna conscious. So, that was, if you understand the context we're speaking about, then you see, yes, all the ways that Prabhupada was manifesting compassion. And now, also, when you see many of the orders that Prabhupada gave to us and many of the plans that he had for building temples, distributing books, preaching in universities, scientific preaching, prasadam distribution, restaurants, schools. Behind that all, now we understand that Prabhupada is seeing that the world is suffering and we need to go out. And so he's always pushing. Sometimes you might think, well, Prabhupada was pushing too hard. Like, why was he pushing so hard? This is like too much. But his pushing was his compassion. And he would often talk about the world's going to hell. You ever read those purports where Prabhupada said, the world is quickly going to hell. It's Kali Yuga. It's moving really fast. And only the Krishna consciousness movement can save it. And Prabhupada has to use us because that's all he has, his monkey soldiers. And even us monkey soldiers or monkette soldiers, the monkeys and the monkettes. Of course, in Spanish, monque means monk. So the monkeys are close to being monks, yeah. But we're all he had, so he fully utilized us and empowered us. And it wasn't like Prabhupada's this guru who wants to become famous, who wants to become wealthy. He wants a lot of followers, a lot of properties. Everything behind everything he did was his feeling of suffering for the conditioned souls. And a lot of people didn't understand it when they, would visit the temples, and they couldn't see sometimes beyond the facilities that he had. So in Advaita's Leela, as I said, we don't find him manifesting his Mahavishnu side or even his Lord Shiva side, but we find him manifesting the devotee. This is also important because I think it's clear, easy to understand, that if we're going to understand what love of God is, we have to understand it through the life of a devotee. Otherwise, it's really ambiguous. I think you all have this experience. In the Christian religion, they talk about love, but when you study Bhagavatam, then you start to understand what love is. You study Prabhupada's life, you understand what love is. Anytime you study the life of a pure devotee, you understand what love is. Ultimately, we understand love through the eyes of the gopis and Radharani, Mother Jasoda, the cowherd boys. Then it's starting to make sense. So another thing that we've also learned is that one of the ways Mahaprabhu shows his mercy is by asking his devotees to descend. So many devotees came with Mahaprabhu and followed after he left. Because when the world is full of pure devotees, the world becomes purified. And fallen people become very Krishna conscious. So that's one of the ways that Mahaprabhu shows his mercy. So in a sense, or maybe not in a sense, Advaita Prabhu, Advaita Acarya, is doing a greater service in the role of a devotee than in the role of God. All the expansions of Krishna are devotees. They're all servants. They're all servants of Krishna. Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, and Lord Shankarshan Vasudeva. They're all servants of Krishna. We read in class, I don't know, I think it was the last class, where Advaita was shouting out, I'm servant of Mahaprabhu, I'm servant of Mahaprabhu, I'm servant of Mahaprabhu, I'm servant of all Mahaprabhu's servants. So obviously it's his own desire to manifest as a servant in the role of a devotee. I mean, he is a devotee of Krishna, even though he is Vishnu. But for our benefit, he manifests that position. Then we talked about something else that I think is important. You remember we talked about Advaita, we talked on Friday if you were there, we talked about Advaita being chastised. And Advaita was chastised by Mahaprabhu because Advaita planned it. Advaita Acarya is 52 years older than Mahaprabhu. He's like a class friend of Mahaprabhu's grandfather. And we know Indian culture gives the utmost respect to seniors. And Advaita Acarya, being in the mood of servant, really didn't like being honored by Mahaprabhu. It was uncomfortable for him. Because when you're a servant, you want to serve. But in the Leela, he had this position of an older person, like a grandfather. And so we've talked a lot in previous classes of how the devotee doesn't like to be served by Krishna, even when devotees would pray to Prabhupada. He would be cautious that they, wouldn't pray. Like even when they prayed for his health, he was like, Prabhupada was uncomfortable. He just wanted to pray for service. That's what he wanted. So you can't imitate this. For sure you can't imitate it. But it just shows us that in the natural evolution of love, it's very uncomfortable for a devotee to be served, which is, it's kind of interesting, because so many of us are asking Krishna, please help me with this, please help me with that. Please, if you could just put a few more zeros in my bank account, my life would be so much better. And you could send a nice husband and, get me out of this crazy job and stupid city. And, we all have, you ever think like that? Any of you? Those who are married, to think, I hope my husband gets lost on the way home and falls in the ditch and I never see him again. So Krishna, help me get a husband, or help me make this husband disappear. Or help me get a job, or help me get out of this job because I hate it. So there's a, Krishna, it's so cold today. Can you make it warmer? Krishna, it's too hot today. Can you make it cooler? So I'm not saying there's something terribly wrong with that. We are devotees. So naturally, when we're in difficulty or distress, we turn to Krishna, and you can't artificially be unreal, right? You have to be who you have to be, right? But it's also important to study the pure devotees, because they don't like asking. They really, like, we like asking, and we should ask for pure devotional service, and we can ask for other things if we need them for service. But we're also very detached. We're supposed to be detached. Well, Krishna, this would be nice if you think it'll help me. So we do pray, but I almost, in a sense, encouraged to pray, and the pure devotees have written so many prayers. But it's just interesting how uncomfortable the pure devotee is in asking Krishna for anything which might be interpreted as something personal, for any kind of personal comfort or something of that nature. Oh yeah, you're making Lord Nisringadev work overtime because you have problems, and you're always praying to him to take care of you. Yeah. It's really a fine line, because prayer is one of the 9 processes of devotional service, and we have no other protection than Lord Nisringadev, and we have no other help. So it's a fine line. It's not that we shouldn't pray and we shouldn't ask for help and protection, but anything connected with our own personal satisfaction, it's definitely not pure. And that's my point. The pure devotee definitely doesn't ask. It's against his nature. So Advaita Prabhu was really uncomfortable being in the superior position for Mahaprabhu, because he identified completely as a servant of Mahaprabhu, and Mahaprabhu was serving him and giving respect to him. And so you all know the story. And so he made this plan, not that you would follow in the footsteps of Advaita and make the same plan. This is a bit transcendental. And he understood the worst thing, the greatest chastisement you would get is if you preach Mayavad philosophy. And we see that Prabhupada would, I was going through something, maybe it was I was studying Advaita, and then this long purport came up. It just kept, I'm on my computer, so it just kept, one of those purports, it's like, is this going to end before Monday night? I have to eat lunch sometime today. One of those long purports. What was it about? Mayavadis. As you'll find some of the longest purports about Mayavadis and scientists, because Prabhupada saw them as like these worse than atheists. The scientists, atheists, but okay, we can say scientist, atheist, impersonalist. This is like these people, when they get power, they have the most power to destroy spirituality. They're the greatest contaminants of pure devotional service. So Prabhupada would get very upset talking about it, but especially arguing with someone. We've seen or we've heard. So Advaita Acharya knew that. If I do this, Mahaprabhu is definitely going to chastise me. And even though Mahaprabhu had so much respect, when Advaita Acharya said that immediately. Mayavadi Basha Shunile Hoy Sarvanash. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, if you hear the Mayavadi commentary, Mayavadi Bash, Shunile, you hear. Hoy Sarva, Hoy Sarva Nash. Nash means destroyed. Sarva means everything. Hoy is everything is destroyed. Everything, what is everything? Your spiritual life will be polluted, uprooted, destroyed by hearing it. So naturally, when Mahaprabhu heard Advaita speaking this, he became outraged and chastised him. So the reason I'm telling this story, it's really important. It's a really important point. Number one, Advaita Acharya was happy. He was so happy to be chastised by Mahaprabhu. Now, sometimes in my career, I have chastised people. And I can't remember one time when they were happy. There can be many times when they were not happy. I could think of a few times they were happy, but they were still not happy. I mean, they understood it was good. It just didn't like the taste of the medicine. I've never really met anybody who took the bitter medicine of chastisement and just said, on the spot when they were getting it, said, thank you so much. So I get the thank yous later, when they see it's good, or I never see them again and get the nasty letters. But it's rare, unless someone's very advanced, when they get chastised, that they understand this is really good for me. Thank you. I needed that. It does happen. So maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, that I can't remember, but you know what I'm saying. So point number one, Advaita was chastised and he was happy. This made him happy. Because Lord Chaitanya was now not respecting him. And to get in that position of not being respected made him happy. So he didn't mind being chastised. If that's the price he had to pay, that's fine. Now I'm in the inferior position. Mahaprabhu is in the superior position. So fantastic. I'm happy, right? So I'm bringing this story up because I want to talk about chastisement and being happy being chastised, because it's such a rare thing. So then we have the next story. There is a devotee named Kamalakanta Vishwasa, I believe. Kamalakanta Vishwasa. He worked for the Orissa government as a tax collector. And Advaita Acharya, although he's Mahavishnu, creates millions of universes, he's in his own universe. So like they're all coming from him. But circumstantially, there was some debt he had with the government. I don't know. I can't remember the details. And Kamalakanta wanted to absolve him of that debt and went to the king and said, can you absolve Advaita Acharya of the debt? So I think you can kind of understand where this is going. To say that God has a debt to the government is kind of offensive. Don't you think? It's weird. At the least, it's weird. Mahaprabhu took it as offensive. So when Mahaprabhu heard that, he told Kamalakanta Vishwasa, get out, I never want to see you again. Like total rejection. What is so interesting about this story, some of you may know how this story goes. I think there's too much light now, right? Yeah. The monster effect is setting in. Hold on, everyone. So Advaita Acharya, he goes to Mahaprabhu and he says, what's up with all the mercy you gave Kamalakanta? Vishvasu, you didn't give me that much mercy. Why does he get more mercy than me? I said, what do you mean more mercy? He said, you chastised it more severely. You just chastised me a little bit. You chastised him and told him never to see me again. See you again. He got more mercy than I did. Hare Krishna. All right, digest that for a little bit. See what that does to your head and heart. We have another story of Mukunda. Mukunda was a devotee, but sometimes he was a Mayavadi or an impersonalist because he would associate with impersonalists. He would be influenced by them. And then he would come back and associate with devotees and he'd be a devotee. So when Mahaprabhu was manifesting himself, it's called the Mahaprakash, manifesting himself as Krishna, he was giving blessings. And he didn't give any blessings to Mukunda. And so all the devotees said, can't you give him a blessing? No. Please give him a blessing. Because Mahaprabhu was giving all kinds of blessings. You'll get, Krishna's darshan, you'll go back to Godhead, you'll get mercy tomorrow night at midnight, today, right now. So please bless Mukunda. And the blessing was something like, you'll get my mercy in 1,000,000 lifetimes, not 1,000,000 years, 1,000,000 lifetimes. So if you live a long time, that could be 1,000,000,000 years. If you're, 1,000,000 lifetimes before Kali Yuga would be 1,000,000,000 years, right? Or more. Many billions, or billions and millions. And Mukunda started dancing in ecstasy. And everyone was shocked because they thought, well, that's a curse. You're not going to get, you, Gabriella, not for millions of years will you get my mercy. And she just faints, like, what's the use of living? What did I do? My life is wasted. He comes out dancing in ecstasy. And so they asked him, ¿Por qué? ¿Por qué dance? Dance?
¿Por qué bailas?
Bailas. Dance is French. Bailas.
Bailas.
¿Por qué bailas? Usted es loco. ¿Por qué bailas? Why are you dancing? You must be crazy. I don't think they said he was crazy, but they couldn't figure it out. He said, didn't you hear what Mahaprabhu said? He said, I was going to get his mercy. And they said, yeah, but he said millions of years. He said, yeah, but after millions of years, I'm going to get his mercy. I'm at ecstasy. Wow. So Prabhupada, when he chastised, never thought that he was doing anything but giving mercy. We think something else, right? The spinach and the sweet ball, they're both to be eaten, right? Not just sweet ball. Bitter melon, bitter melon, Corella, it's very healthy, but it's bitter. The seeds especially. It's healthy, but it's bitter. So what is the principle behind all of this? The principle behind all of this is that anything that helps you become Krishna conscious is mercy. That's the principle. Whether it's breaking your toe, being chastised, your husband leaving, you making $1 million, you're losing $1 million, whatever it is, if that helps you become Krishna conscious, it's mercy. And whatever happens that somehow there separates you further from Krishna than you already are, that's not mercy, even though it looks good and it's pleasing to the senses and feels good, tastes good, smells good. What else? Smells good, hears good, looks good, feels good, tastes good, smells good. Even though It satisfies all your senses. If it separates you from Krishna, it's not mercy, even though it seems like it. Oh, the Lord is merciful to me. Help me buy a new car. Praise the Lord. Maybe it's mercy, maybe it's not. You know that story when the king was, I forget how it did it, the king chopped off his finger. And his assistant said, "Oh, Krishna's mercy." That king was so angry, threw his assistant in jail. How could you say such a thing? It's like Ekaterina, she gets in a car accident, she almost dies. She calls me up, says, "I'm almost dying." I go, "Krishna's mercy, you're about to go back to Godhead. You're so fortunate. I have to stay in this body for so many years." She'll think, he's crazy. What's he talking about? I don't want to talk to him again. So actually, I could say something like that, but I wouldn't say it exactly that way. But you know what I'm saying, right? You would think, this is so weird. So the king was offended, puts him in jail. And then the king goes out. The kings go out and they conquer and they fight and they practice killing animals. I think he was practicing killing an animal. And then there were these worshipers of Durga. And these worshipers of Durga would do human sacrifice to Durga. As a side note that I mentioned Durga, once Advaita, who is Lord Shiva, went to a Durga temple and he wouldn't bow down. Everyone's like, "Excuse me, sir, it's Durga, bow down." I'm not bowing down. I don't bow down to Durga. Like, everyone's offended, they're getting angry. Durga breaks out of the deity, comes out and says, the husband does not bow down to the wife. Wow. He's Lord Shiva. Of course, now in Kali Yuga, basically that's the duty of the husband, is to bow to the wife. But at least in traditional culture, the men were like very powerful. And so the wives naturally bowed to them. They were happy to bow. I will say the men bow in other ways, but this was, he's Vishnu, he's Shiva, and she's Parvati. So it was natural Shakti and Shaktiman, the Shakti, so says, I don't bow down. So anyway, so these men, they capture the king and they are preparing him for the sacrifice, and they're going to kill him. This is actually would go on. They're going to kill him and offer him to Durga. And lo and behold, they find that he's only got half a thumb. Sometimes a deity will be shipped and it will crack, and the strict Hindus will not install it. That's how we got the deities of Radha and Landanishwar, because they were cracked. They were opening the temple like a week before and they didn't have deities. And the man said, "We can't install these deities because they're cracked." And Prabhupada's like, "Okay, we'll take them. But they're cracked. No problem. We can use them." Prabhupada followed rules and regulations up to a point, but at a certain point, it was like, this is not the essence. So he was okay. He said, he took it, Radha and Krishna have come. That's what is happening. So they let him go because he's got an imperfection. He can't be offered. So he comes back. He lets I guess it was a minister, out of the prison and said, I have to apologize for you. It was Krishna's mercy that I cut my finger, because if I hadn't cut it, they would have killed me. He said, but I don't understand how it was Krishna's mercy that I put you in jail. He said, well, If you didn't put me in jail, I would have been with you. And instead of sacrificing me, you, they would have sacrificed me. And there are many stories like this about people will say, this is mercy. And someone will say, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. We'll have to see. And there's other stories like that where things which seemed like total reverses actually ended up saving someone's life. And when everybody said, oh, this is so bad, so we'll have to see. And something good would happen. Say, this is so good. Well, we'll have to see. And the good turned bad, the bad turned good. So if whatever happens helps you become more Krishna conscious, it's good. I mean, the whole point is to get out of the material world. I was writing an article this morning, something that I desperately needed to write and have been thinking about for the last 10 Kali Yugas. And it was trying to make sense of the no illicit sex principle in the best way I could make sense of it. I mean, the principle is clear, but it's clear, but it's not so easy for everyone to follow. And so as I was, kind of giving around a 360-degree view of it, and I was expressing my own opinion, which was that if by following the no illicit sex principle as strictly as possible, strictly as I can, as I've always tried to, I can get love of Krishna, then whatever difficulty or pain or temptation I have to withhold. Of course, now I'm older, so it's different, but I joined when I was 19. If whatever pain, it's worth it because that just brings me closer to Krishna, and that's the real bonus. So any pain, any difficulty, I got to tolerate it. It's so hard. I know it's hard. I know it's difficult, but if that pain brings you closer to Krishna, it's worth it, right? It's ultimately pleasure. So that's the principle. Sometimes Krishna will chastise us also. Create situations where we might suffer or be embarrassed by some situation, do something stupid. And now, no, everybody knows I'm stupid. I had them fooled. They thought I was smart. And now they can see I'm not. I'm never going to go to the temple again. I'm too embarrassed. Maybe I was proud, and that's what Krishna had to do to humble me. And now everybody sees I'm a fool, so I don't have to pretend anymore. Actually, life is easier now. It's hard to act every day like you're somebody you're not, isn't it? It's just easier to be yourself. And people can love you or hate you, then you know who your friends are and your enemies. So, so that's the principle. So back to being chastised. So if we are corrected, if we are chastised, but we can take it as mercy, then we can get the benefit from it. Not saying it's always easy, but it's always important to understand. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that sometimes we're criticized, sometimes we're chastised, sometimes wrongly chastised, wrongly criticized. That ever happened to you? Someone said something, me? I didn't do that. No, you did it. I didn't do it. I never did it. No, you did it. I'm telling the temple president. It's the way the world is sometimes, right? Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, when that happens, you should think, Krishna has sent this person to make me humble. Even if it's wrong and it's unjust or unfair, I'm not standing up for unfair, unjust people. That's not why I'm saying this. But I'm saying for us, if we could, and there's no other collateral damage to what they said, it's just my false ego got bruised. or sprained or broken. But if I can think, well, maybe Mahaprabhu is just trying to make me humble, so people are making up stories about me, or people are criticizing me for little minor things. I was thinking today, we have a president here in America. Some people don't like, obviously, can't please everybody. So then I thought, well, if I become the president of the United States, if I don't do anything, a lot of people are going to say, he's not doing anything. So I'll be criticized. Then if I do something, a lot of people criticize, look what he's doing. He's doing all these stupid things. So if you want to become humble, it's actually quite easy, because all you have to do is live. And there'll be enough people and situations around you that will harm you, criticize you, chastise you, embarrass you, out of your control. And if you don't fight it, you'll become humble. So that's how a devotee sees the world. He says, well, this isn't good, but Mahaprabhu must have sent this person to help me become humble. That's how to take it. Or help me see my mistakes. I dealt with this person the wrong way. Now, somehow or other, he's letting me see I made a mistake. That's good. I apologize. That's good. Hare Krishna. Yes. So, one last thing, which I think is interesting to point out, that when Mahaprabhu comes, as we know, he comes with his 4 associates, and of course, more than 4, but the Panchatattva, the 5 truths. And what's interesting about this is that he's not spreading Krishna consciousness alone. He's doing it as a group. Every person has a role to play in the Leela of Lord Chaitanya to help conditioned souls. One time, Prabhupada, a devotee came to Prabhupada, and I believe he had fallen from sannyas, something of that nature, huge mistake. And he asked Prabhupada, will you accept me back? Prabhupada said, of course. The devotee was actually surprised. He said, really, you will? You won't push me away? And Prabhupada said, no, I cannot forget the service you've done. I'm not Lord Chaitanya. I can't save the whole world myself. I need your help. So one time, a devotee asked Prabhupada, he said, I read that Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. You remember how you pronounce Bengali? You put a gulab jamun in your mouth and you speak. Bhakti Vinod Thakur. I remember one time a devotee told Prabhupada, he said, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur said that when you speak English, you throw out the gulab jamun again, or a golf ball, that would also work, or anything that size. He said that I left this world, my work, unfinished. So the devotee was confused. What does that mean, his work unfinished? And, if he's a pure devotee, why can't he finish it? Like, why does he need us? And Prabhupada said, it was his mercy that he left the work unfinished, so he left it for us to finish. So we have some service. Just like we were saying the other day, Yamaraj was really depressed when he found out that Advaita was coming to call Mahaprabhu and everyone was going back to Godhead. He was really in anxiety. He said, I have no service. There'll be nobody's going to hell anymore. They're all going back to Godhead. So, sometimes you get a little frightened, isn't it? If your service is taken away. So Prabhupada's saying, no, but this is his mercy that they give us service. So Mahaprabhu is giving us all service, as I mentioned before. It's like Prabhupada didn't say it this way, but we have a slogan in America, like an army slogan, when they want to get people to enlist. We're looking for a few good men. Yeah. So Prabhupada gave a lecture which was similar to Lord Chaitanya's looking for a few good men. And what that means is, I have the plan, everything's ready, I just need some people to execute it. And not that Mahaprabhu actually needs us, but it's his mercy that he lets us do it. And so that's how his movement spreads. He allows us to get some credit, to do some service for him. So he comes with the Panchatattva, the Goswamis, and everybody has a specific service that they excel at, which is needed. Of course, you could say, like, yes, Mahaprabhu could do it all. But he chooses to do everything through his devotees, and they all have specific services, which are much different. And we all have some service. We utilize our ability. And Mahaprabhu then uses us, and we're blessed. Fortunate. So Prabhupada said, stay in Krishna consciousness and get the credit. This boat is taking the conditioned souls back to Godhead. Just stay on the boat and work on the boat, and you will get credit. And when you go back to God and they look at you and say, I don't know about you. You're like, how'd you get up here? Then you can say, no, but I'm part of the Sankirtan movement. It's like, oh, okay. Get in. You're in. That's how it works. All right, so we'll look at your questions or comments. Acépteme reverencias. Humildad. Nobody said that. I'm translating to Spanish now. So Jyotirmai said, I was thinking yesterday I'm making Lord Nrsingadev work overtime. Yeah. It's okay, Jyotirmai, if he's working overtime to help you become a pure devotee and help others become a pure devotee. So Krishna Premi says, I noticed I'm hesitant to pray to Krishna to help me, as I don't want to ask him for stuff. Most of the time, I pray asking to give me strength to buy stuff. No, she didn't say. Give me strength to go through whatever is going. I don't want to ask him for stuff, so I just pray for money so I can buy the stuff myself. Is that okay? No, this is Hare Krishna. Advaita Acarya was actually quite funny. So I guess I'm channeling in him. No, that's the proper attitude. Give me strength. Give me strength. Give me whatever I need to be strong. Yeah. And give me strength to go through it. And as far as stuff, don't worry about stuff, because Krishna knows what kind of stuff you want, and he knows what kind of stuff you need. And if you ever come to my house, you'll realize that after you've been a devotee all your life, you accumulate a lot of stuff. So I don't really know if that's a blessing or not, because then you have to deal with all the stuff and take care of it, clean it, and remember where you put it. So, yeah. Periodically, I get rid of stuff because after a while, you don't need it anymore. Or it just becomes obsolete. Yeah. So, but we should all know that if we give our lives to service of Krishna, he'll take care of us. You don't have to worry about that. And in fact, sometimes he takes care of you more when you don't ask for that stuff, because it shows your faith that you know he will provide it, and he likes to provide to those who have faith. And as I've said before, sometimes when we're praying for stuff, it's a sign of a lack of faith. You're like, hey, Krishna, when's the stuff coming? I've been a devotee 6 months. I don't see the stuff yet. Are you going to give me the stuff? And as opposed to, I know you're giving me what I need. And you may give more, you may give less. Yeah, like Gabriella just got this beautiful place to rent, just Krishna gave it. So it's like, okay, but Krishna knew she wanted it, right? You had the pictures of it probably tattooed in your mind. So he said, okay, here it is, So our main focus is service, and we know Krishna will give what we want, what we need, what we can handle, what we're ready for, what we can use. All these things are considerations. So that's a beautiful way to live. And then you allow Krishna to do it. And sometimes we pray for something and Krishna's like, oh, you don't have faith in me that I'm going to give that? Why do you have to ask? What's wrong with you? It's like sometimes Prabhupada said, a little kid will ask the father, like, Daddy, are you feeding me tonight? It's like, what do you mean, am I feeding you? Don't I feed you every day? Well, I was just wondering. I didn't know. How does that make the father feel? Like, my son doesn't even think I'm going to feed him? Or something like that. Yes. So now, this from Tanya. She has a quote from Saint, how do you pronounce that? Therese? Is that Therese of Lisieux? Is that French? Therese of Lisieux? I'm often worried at receiving nothing but praise, and I grow tired of this food, which is oversweet. Then Jesus offers me a tasty salad, seasoned with vinegar and spice. Nothing is left out except the oil, and this makes it more tasty than ever. It is brought to me by the novices when I least expect it. God lifts the veil which hides my imperfections, and my sisters see me as I am, not much to their liking. With a delightful frankness, they tell me what a time I give and what they dislike about me. They could hardly be more candid if talking about someone else, because they know that I am like them, because they know that I like them to act like this. She likes it. Not only does it give me pleasure, it is a delicious feast which fills my soul. Okay, do you have any volunteers? Raise your hand and we'll all tell you what's wrong with you. We have a Serbi cow with us from England, and a fat Serbi cow. Well, if you're a happy Sarabi, then you give a lot of milk, right? In some form, maybe the form of seva, or a service to form of kirtan and service to others. Is this from you, Anuradha, or somebody else? Yeah.
Me.
Does Krishna put devotees in difficulties so other devotees can manifest compassion? That could be. Sometimes we see that, it's like devotees in difficulty, and then you take care of them, and then later on you realize, well, that was mercy, that I could serve that way. Especially if you have affection for someone, you're close to someone, it's always a blessing to be able to serve them. So the difficulties become an opportunity to show your love. So you could say compassion, but also to show the other person you care. Like sometimes, you think nobody cares about me. The devotees are so hard-hearted, and then there's some difficulty, and then they all come and they take care of you. They give you money. They clean. They cook. And so Krishna did that. I've seen that happen many times. So Krishna did that just to show you they do care. I often say, even those devotees that criticize you, or don't like the way you think or way you dress or the way you put tilak on or your tulsi beads, or your color of your sari or whatever. Even those devotees, if you're in serious difficulty, they'll 99.9 will be there to help you. Isn't it a fact? I'm sure of it, right? I mean, if you're leaving your body, those devotees are going to go, let her go to hell. I don't care. I don't like her neck beads. No, it's not going to be like that. She said something stupid in Bhagavatam class 48 years ago. Well, I'm not going to be around when she dies. Devotees aren't like that. So here's the conversation that I was quoting. What did Bhakti Thakur mean? What did Bhakti Vinod Thakur mean when he said, I'm going, my work unfinished? Prabhupada didn't hear the question. States it again. Then let us finish. We are descendant of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So he kept unfinished so that we shall get the chance to finish. That is his mercy. He could have finished immediately. He is Vaishnava. He's all powerful. But he gave us a chance. You foolish people, you also work. That is his mercy. So we should pray to Bhaktivinoda Thakur. We are your grandchildren, great-grandchildren. So we have got some right to beg some mercy from you. The grandchildren get some indulgence from the grandfather. So I pray like that. It is Bhaktivinoda Thakur's mercy. Yeah. So what are we going to pray for? Shakti, right? Yes. When we're in Mayapur, we often go to the home of Bhaktivinoda Thakur and pray for mercy. Sometimes we clean his room. Rachna Sani says, how to increase more intensity in devotional service. I think, personally, the best answer for this is read more of Prabhupada's books. Because if you do that, all your devotional activities will become more intense, because Prabhupada will remind you of how important devotional service is and how bad Maya is. And you'll be reminded so frequently. It will be so clear to you and so on the forefront of your mind that your seriousness to be Krishna conscious and go back to Godhead will be natural. Now, Rachna, it's interesting when we say how to increase our intensity. In Spanish, it's intenso. Correcto? Intenso?
Yes.
Necesita más intenso por servicio devocional. I need more intensity for devotional service. If we try to understand, everybody's got enthusiasm for something. So when we say, I'm lacking enthusiasm for bhakti, generally, I can't say it's 100%. Generally, it means I've got some enthusiasm for something else, which is why my enthusiasm for bhakti is lacking. Now, there are some people who have no enthusiasm for anything other than eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. But assuming we're not that bad off, when we feel I'm lacking enthusiasm or intensity for bhakti, it may mean, at least this is something for you to explore, it may mean that you've got intensity for something else. So the intensity for other things, if it doesn't decrease, how will there be intensity for Krishna? Because they're polar opposites. And so more intensity for Krishna, less intensity for other things. More intensity for other things, less intensity for Krishna. That's generally what's going to happen. Unless you're initiated, you just wear one strand. And then after initiation, you can wear 3 strands of tulsi beads. Hare Krishna. That's it for questions. Still have 15 minutes. Okay. Oh, sorry, dear Rasa. Tell me what's wrong with me. Okay, sorry, dear Rasa. How much time do you have? I don't know if 15 minutes is enough. By Krishna's grace, over the years, I've lost my taste to tell people what's wrong with them. And Prabhupada said that when you take the position of teacher or parent, guru, elder, then sometimes you have to chastise because it's good. It's good to do it. But then Prabhupada said it's a thankless task. It's out of character. Vaishnavas don't chastise, it's out of character. So it's an austerity. So next time I see you, Saradiya, we'll have a chastising session. But you'll have to do something stupid because I don't see any fault in you. Maybe you're too far away for me to see the fault. You have to come to Alachua so I can see it. I could, not say specifically what's wrong with you. We can specifically say what's wrong with everybody, right? What's specifically wrong with everybody is we still think we can be Krishna after all these lifetimes and all these classes and all these rounds. That's what's wrong with all of us. We're still trying, haven't given up yet. You would think we'd give up by now, right? Still going strong, right? Give it another chance. Just one more chance. Maybe I could do it. Maybe I need a better strategy to imitate Krishna. Yeah. Like that. That's the problem. So Saradiya, Rasa, you can just chastise yourself. It's like, I'm such a fool. Why do I think like that? Anytime you see your own foolishness, you can chastise yourself. Do you ever do that? Chastise yourself. So you can chastise yourself in a healthy way, and you can chastise yourself in an unhealthy way. And if you chastise yourself in a healthy way, it will actually help you get better. If you chastise yourself in an unhealthy way, it'll just make you worse, more discouraged. So it's it's our job to see our deficiencies, and also our job to improve. It's our job to see what's wrong spiritually with us, where we're lacking. So Saradiya, I think the answer to your question is, I will turn it back on you and ask you to answer that question. Because we should all answer that question, don't you think? In a positive context. And then one of you is going to say, well, if I ask that question, what's wrong with me? The answer is going to be everything. Well, forget the hyper humility and actually start honing in on something, that you could see, okay, I could work on this and work on it. Be happy working on it. I find it great pleasure in discovering what's wrong if I can make it better. That's good. If I discover what's wrong and I go to sleep, that's pretty depressing. But if I discover what's wrong and actually work on it, that's quite as inspiring, believe it or not, because You're moving forward, and that's when it gets exciting. You're moving forward. You made a discovery. I didn't realize that I had this problem. Now I've discovered this problem. I'm working on it. It's improving. I'm moving forward. That's exciting. That's inspiring. Isn't it? You have that experience, any of you? Whereas if you discover what's wrong and you do nothing, that's pretty depressing. Indeed. In fact, it's better you don't discover it, because if you do nothing, it just makes it worse. Doesn't it? Yeah. Okay, we have some more questions. How do we deal with the person who insulted you? Well, you could strangle their neck or punch them in the nose, your preferred method of retaliation. You could forgive them, or you could think, Krishna's mercy on me, to make me humble. Or you might, there's a third possibility, or a fourth, I forgot what number we're on. There's a third possibility, another possibility, that they could be right. And you call it an insult, but they're just pointing out a reality. So, Tanya, you're so tall. How dare you insult me? No, you are, right? You look like a basketball player, Tanya. How tall are you? Taller than me, right? Maybe. Yes?
172.
Yeah, we think in feet and inches. So, yeah. Yeah. So, if, someone might say, well, it's not polite to call her tall. I go, I thought that was a compliment. Yeah, it depends on the culture, I guess. But someone may just point out something. It's not an insult, they're just pointing it out. And they didn't mean to insult you. Oh, Tanya, can you get that? You're tall. You can reach that, right? How dare you insult me and call me tall? I'm sorry. So maybe what they're saying is actually true, right? That's also a possibility. And this is such a generic question, it's hard to answer, because I don't know what they told you and why they told you. And maybe the person who told you tells everybody the same thing. That's just what they do, tell everybody what's wrong with them. Maybe you deserve it, maybe you did something wrong, but my best advice is don't spend the rest of your life thinking about it and thinking about how much you don't like that person, because that is going to destroy you. That's the best answer. Don't, someone insults me. Okay, do I want to dwell on it the rest of my life? Is that what I want to do? Is that going to help? So it happens. As I've said a million times, and now 1,000,001, if you don't like being insulted, go back to Godhead, because you won't get insulted there. But as long as you're down here, you're going to get insulted. You're going to get criticized. People are going to be nasty. This is the place it happens. If you don't like it, get out of here. If you're in prison, you're going to meet some, what we call in English, unsavory characters, or maybe spicy people is another word. You're going to meet people. I don't like the people in this prison. Get me out of here. Sorry, you committed a crime. Should have thought about that before. You have to live with these people. That's the nature of the prison. So that's also a way we can think. It's like someone insults me, something goes wrong. And we have to recognize that's the nature of this world. So tolerance is a really good word. Tolerate. What should I do? Do what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. Tolerate. We have a confession here from Jyotirmayi. It did happen with my Guru Maharaj. He chastised me during the class. I cried all day. It was mercy. She cried in ecstasy. She got so much mercy. How can we please our spiritual master? That is easy question to answer. Just ask him. And Google says 5772. What does Google say? What, 5? Oh, you're 5 foot. Oh, that's all? No, that's all? That means I'm taller than you. Okay. I don't think you don't look 5'7". Google's wrong. Google, you're wrong. 172 centimeters, I don't know. Okay. Sardi Rasa says, what is wrong with me is that I think I'm right about most things. Understand the situation as it is while I'm, in reality, I have a limited perspective. Yeah, that's common. So I suppose I'm still way too proud. Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't have love of God, probably you're way too proud, because humility comes with love. So, they kind of pride and materialism, they're like partners in crime. They work together like chocolate and peanut butter, just made for one another. A bit off topic, and how to stop being so strong opinionated. Really don't like this quality. Well, I think Sardi answered it. Well, Krishna Premi, unless you are the all-pervading super soul, you don't know everything. So your opinion is subjective to the so many years you've lived and seen, and the books you've read, and the experiences you've had, and the emotions you feel, which are quite limited in relation to what's going on in the entire universe. So once you realize your opinions are exactly that, subjective opinions based on your knowledge and feelings and experience, then you will realize, maybe I'm not always right. There's a possibility I don't know everything. Just a possibility, maybe something to consider, right? This is so funny, right? Like, Krishna Premi, if you think you're always right, you are fully qualified to take another birth in the material world. Money back guarantee. This is one of the qualifications, that I'm always right. Nobody's as smart as I am. Great. You can take birth as Albert Einstein in your next life because you're so smart. And then you'll think you're even smarter than everybody. And then you can take birth as Albert Schweitzer. And then you can just go on taking birth as smart people to confirm that you are smarter than everyone. But if you're really smart, you'll get out of the material world and you'll think, I'm not so smart. That the smart people realize they're not so smart. Right? Every 17-year-old knows everything. Right? Every 17-year-old is the smartest person around, right? When they get about 30, they realize that they're not as smart as they thought they were. So that's a sign of advancement, when you realize you're not as smart as you thought you were. So, Krishna Premi, there's another problem. Sometimes you'll have a tumor in your body, or for men, it's prostrate, it gets swollen, or inflammation of something. So we have this problem. It's called inflammation of false ego. It's like we hear the wrong things, see the wrong things, think the wrong things, and false ego becomes inflamed, and it clouds our vision. So we think like, I know everything, I'm smarter, I'm always right. That's all false ego. I'm not saying you're not right a lot. That's not even the point. We're not analyzing that. But that's what false ego does. So take it for what it is. It's just, I need to be right. Why do you need to be right? Security makes me feel smart. Okay. Great. So you can feel smart for the next million lifetimes. That's what you want. But better be Krishna conscious. We're so foolish sometimes that we'll trade in Krishna consciousness for some manifestation of false ego, isn't it? It's like, give me that chocolate peanut butter false ego bar, No, I like the one with cherries on. We're just like, it's not good for you. Don't eat it. No, but I like it. It feels good. That's the problem. So, when you want to be Krishna conscious, then it's like, when you want to be Krishna conscious, it's like you're willing to like just do what you have to do and admit what you have to admit and see what you have to see and give up what you have to give up. It just becomes so much easier when you have a stronger desire to be Krishna conscious. But when you don't, all these things become problems. Well, how could I give up that? And people think I'm stupid. When you're more advanced, if that's what you have to give up to be Krishna conscious, you just give it up. It's not a problem. No problem. Yeah, let's do it. Right? So that's part of the problem there. It's like they're all, it's not, it's holistic. It's all connected. If I do this, if I expose this, if people see this, if people tell me that, but it helps me become Krishna conscious, fine with me. Let's do it. Why not? No problem. No problema para mí. Okay, so on that happy note, you'll all get an email from me chastising you to death for being so stupid that you took birth in the material world. Don't be stupid enough to do it again. And well, I don't have to say that to you. I don't have to write you a letter because I just said it. So on that happy note, you can all take a break and cry for a minute before we start chanting japa. But that's good because now you can cry in your japa. So it's perfect ending to class. Hare Krishna. So we can end class now and we'll start crying for Krishna. Cry for